So I 100% agree with Paul. Thank you for that enlightening presentation and for the motivation that you brought into this room. And I repeat myself, I agree, because we all know that investing in such a big project is a big challenge. We are thinking, or Peter basically thinking, into the first 100,000 hectare plot, which is also now my presentation. So we were concentrating, or I will concentrate in this presentation, what is the economic benefit, or what is the economic profitability check of a 100,000 hectare plot. And Paul basically pointed it out. When we do the financial analysis, we basically come to the point that we have a beginning cash flow hurdle, let's call it like this. So when you plant trees and you want to sell carbon credits and you don't want to sell them ex ante, you want to sell them ex post in order to get a good price, then you have to overcome time. And in order to convince investors to go into a more or less 7 billion investment, which is for 100,000 hectares, you have to show how you can create cash flow. This cash flow doesn't need to pay the entire game, but it should at least pay maybe the notes where everybody's playing on. And this is why we need all your technologies. We need brine mining. Yeah? We need the cooling chain that you just mentioned. We need agri-photovoltaic systems from Peter. So we need the whole potpourri of potentials in order to create small revenues, small cash flows that we can convince, okay, here you get at least your interest back, but in the long run, if the big fish works, then you make money. And I think this is the story. So can I click here? Oh, it is working. So what I was thinking about is if you do economic analysis for such a project, you ask yourself a question, do I have access to land? Yeah? And we are all here to get the contract with the Mauritanian government. We're working on it since 3 years, and we are trustful and hopefully looking forward that we get the signature soon, that we can start our endeavor. So for me, access to land is given. We just heard that we can, the whole country can decarbonize 10% of the global atmosphere. So scalability with regard to economic performance analysis is also given. And then we hear that today, best sun and best wind conditions that you can find. So best sun, best wind means low electricity price. Low electricity price means low water costs. Low water costs means low biomass production. Low biomass production means high profit on carbon credit selling or on commodities that you're going to produce based on that biomass. So that is all given. What we're also thinking about is water demand. So what kind of, how much is the water demand that you really need for each species? You know? So every business plan is based on belief. You know? So I can do a very sound data mining and I tell you, okay, this is the water I need, this is the investment I need, this is the money I have to pay for a worker, this is the capacity of one worker, and you have a lot of data, a lot of literature, a lot of experience, but at the end, there's always a bit of belief in each business plan. And by starting with the first phase and the second phase, in order to get to the big fish, we will eradicate the doubts that are based on each variable. So then we have the political relevance. We hear that it is relevant, just Paul said, it's relevant for the use, yeah, it is relevant for Europe to go for strategic partnerships. Don't have to repeat that. And then the CO2 market is basically existent. We all heard that the prices are going to skyrocket. Yeah? So currently in European trading scheme, we're talking about, what is it? Today it was, I think, 82 euros per ton. Which is a good starting point, and it's going to increase up to, if we believe in Bloomberg, up to 400 euros per ton. Yeah? So this is really the high end, which we definitely would not need. But the question is like, where do we find the finance? And financing you only find if you go do a sound business plan, and the business plan at least shows that it is potentially feasible, and that was my task. But in order to eradicate a bit the doubts, I want to bring you to a place which is close to our SAREP site, basically directly at the border. It's in the Inchiri region, and I want to show you this in order to eradicate a bit the doubts. So this area is in Beni Shop. Beni Shop, it is like 150 kilometers northeast from Nouakchott. And it was 2 years ago, Jens Harald, you remember, yeah? Miriam, you also were part of the equipe. We went there, And we went there because we hear that there's groundwater. So you hear the wind, yeah? It is a very, very strong wind, and also you have small sand particles inside the wind. So you believe that it's really like eradicating every single leaf of a plant if you plant something there. And you see that it doesn't look very nice. You have some shrubs and some small plants on that area. And so now this is the perfect picture for somebody who is against SAREP. They would say, okay, forget it. Yeah? Renewable energy is not working. Yeah? PV systems do not work. Wind is not working. We know that this is not true. Yeah? It is expensive energy. It's not true. It is very cheap energy. And the wind conditions are maybe not good enough. Now, we know that the wind conditions are extremely good. I could continue with all the doubts, but I want to show you the next picture, because if you go 100 meters, no, not 100 meters, it was a kilometer closely to Beni Shab city, 10,000 inhabitants, where they have groundwater 60 meters deep. We just had Mohammed Bayhat this morning, who was speaking about his Inchiri region, and then you find this. In the middle of the desert.
Give me a second.
Give me a second. Do you hear it? It's quiet. The wind is blocked by the plants. And the plants are still living. There is no plant eradicated because of sand movement, and they are also not buried because of sand movement. So you see that basically it works. But the very fascinating thing about this is done with kind of brackish water. It is done with not drip irrigation. It is erratic irrigation. And these eucalyptus that you see there, I have a nice picture. It's my favorite picture of Jens Harald in the right corner. I could do it like Daniel. What do you think? How old is this tree? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? So we have been told it is 3.5 to 4 years, and it's irrigated erratically. So nobody knows exactly how much water is put on, but based on the calculations that we do, for example, 6,000 meter cube per hectare in a year, we will have at least a triple biomass and a triple growth. And here I have already a proof of concept. So whom is telling you that this project is going to fail? Bring him or her or it, and we fly to Beni Shab and we show, and we have a proof of concept that it will work. That's my firm belief, and this is why I continue to do economic analysis. So as you heard already from Peter this morning, the strategy is that we're going for the test plot, which is 1,000 meter cube, 50 to 75 hectares. Then we go for a scale up, 40,000 meter cube per day, 2,400 hectares. These steps are necessary in order to convince investors and see if all these technologies work. And all your technologies that have been presented today are surrounded on this activity. For sure, internal rate of return or economic performance is not very, let's call it, attractive. We're not losing money. We are close with the first phase on the basis of compensating for losses by inflation. On the second phase, where we have already economy of scale effects, we're going maybe in the direction of 4-5% of internal rate of return. But as Paul also mentioned, you could always put your money for 11%, lay back, and just see how the money comes. So this is the big hurdle that we need to reach, and this is why we are calculating the big fish. So what is the economic performance of a 100,000 hectare plot if we are desalinating or producing 2 million cubic meters per day of fresh water? Actually, with 2 million cubic meter of fresh water, we can irrigate approximately 107,000 hectares currently to our calculations. Just quickly also to assure, so I showed you it's growing, and I showed you that we have the water availability, and that we have, what we heard also from our friends, the potential to sell the carbon credits. And here again some slides that show you what is the prices that we could reach. This is a new study from Bloomberg, not very new, it's like now 1.5 years old. And they say if you go for high quality scenarios, which we believe SAREP is in, then in 2040, which our calculation perfectly fits, we could gain a price of up to 200 euros per ton per each certificate. So this is also proving another very important variable for the SAREP project, which is the water availability, which is the plant growth. So how much does the plant grow, how much biomass we can produce, and what is the price we get for the main commodity that we're currently striving for. Just another motivating slide. I don't want to explain it in its depth complication, but this is from the IMO, the International Marine Organization. They have kind of an extra pot, they call it Net Zero Fund. And they also put very, very strict carbon reduction targets. And they have penalties. And I want to highlight, maybe you see it in the, sorry, maybe you see it in the no, this is not working. In the red written part where you see tier, there is the price if you don't comply to the carbon reductions. This is $380 per ton of carbon, plus the 100 in the yellow area that you have to pay. So potentially you pay $480 per ton of carbon credit if you do not reach the reduction targets of your ship. And we all know that it is very, very difficult for the shipping industry because they all are based on bunker fuel, and so they have two options. So they go for renewable fuels. So the question is, where do the renewable fuels come from? We all know that it could be SAREP, yeah? Or they go for carbon credits, and then the price is going up to 480 euros per ton. And this is already decided regulation at the IMO. So I am quite convinced that calculating a business plan for SAREP based on a 200 euro per ton of CO2 carbon credit is not exaggerated, rather it is pessimistic. Okay, so what did we do? We gathered all the variables, the technical variables, the economic variables, and then usually we put all these variables in the cockpit that we always can play with the numbers, because every day we get new numbers or updated numbers or different ideas. Then we derive a cash flow statement based on the production of profit and loss account and the standardized balance sheet. And then based on the cash flows that we can derive from the cash flow statement, we derive key performance indicators. You all know these indicators: internal rate of return, multiple on invested capital, so everything that the investors for such big investments want to see and want to hear. So currently phase 3, 107,000 hectares of production based on our water demand calculation will result in an investment of 7.7 billion. So basically we are calculating 5.7 billion, 5.9 billion is pure CAPEX, pure technology investment, and the rest is money that we need during the ramp-up phase, because currently we are calculating 7 years for the first crediting period. So after 7 years, or after 9 years, basically, we will sell the first credits, and then we go for yearly credit selling. So there's different scenarios that you could use, but currently this is our preferred option. So we need a bit of money in order to bridge the first years. Yeah? And in order to bridge the first years, we are having a broad portfolio of products, which is not only related to the production of carbon credits by shelter belts. Also we have kiri, also we have jadrofa, also we're looking for onions. And because these are things that are currently working, it seems that they are doable, that there are markets, that we find clients, and we could add to that calculation all the things that we hear today, for example, the algae, the tilapia, the whole portfolio that I saw from Johan in your presentation. There's so many different plants that could create income, so we always can increase the direct sales option in that business plan. But currently we are based on sales about 2 billion euros per year. You see the different assumptions that we have. So we're talking about 100 to 200 euros per ton of CO2. Basically what we did, we started in the year 31 was 100 euros, which we definitely will get, and we increased that by 8 years to 200, and then we kept it on 200 for 30 years period. And this is rather pessimistic, I would say. Then we have timber. We can sell timber from the Kiri. Here we calculate 250 euros per meter cube, which is also very conservative. It can go up to 450. We have a bit of jatropha oil. Also, we sell water. It's very important because Nouakchott needs water. 300,000 meter cube could be sold to Nouakchott on a very low price. And then we have the algae. We have biomass products. And that all sums up in certain EBITDA and projected sales. Here you see that if we start the ramp up and the implementation in the year 2031 after the second phase, I mean even we can do it earlier, but the numbers won't change, then we have a ramp up phase until 2038. Ramp up is not only referring to the ramp up of the technology, it also includes the implementation of some shelter belts and some onions, because basically you start to ramp up, and then after the third year you already will have slow water capacities. And once you have water, you directly will start to produce something that creates cash flow. And but then in 2039 there's the first verification period, and here you see that will bring us a big amount of money. But then we switch to standard operation, where we say, okay, we do a verification every year, and we don't want the big money. We want annual payments in order to justify that we are liquid. Okay. And if you take all these numbers, then you get these KPIs. Yeah? So its ramp-up period is 8 years. We have a payback period of 11 years, which is the static. Dynamic, it's a bit longer. We have annual free cash flow of 1.1 billion, and we expect an IRR of 9%, and a MOIC of 3.5%, multiple on invested capital. That means, okay, you invest €1, you get 3.5 euros back over 30 years minus inflation will give you the 9% of IRR. So I do believe that for a project with such social and environmental benefits, a 9% IRR is strong. And let's take the 9. So here I just show you how we do sensitivity analysis. So if you look on the upper table, in the middle you see the 9% IRR. This is my KPI. And then you could change the variables. So for example, here I took the variable growth rate in tons of dry matter, which is on the upper part. And on the left part, I have the CO2 forecast price. And now at the end, after 9 years, I told you we are calculating with 200. But what if I increased the 200 to 240? So I increased the price assumption by 20%. And I don't change the growth rate. So then the internal rate of return will not be 9%, it will be 10.6%. So now imagine we don't have electricity. So they stop once the official time is over. So let's imagine we have even more growth rate. So just increasing it by another 20%, so we will get another 2% of IRR. The same we could do for the water demand, which is the lower one. So if we reduce the water demand by 10%, getting the same yield, let's say it's 10%, and let's say the water capex is equal, yeah? Then it doesn't change. Then we will also gain 1% of IRR. I mean, I'm talking 1%, 0.5%, but this is a lot of money because it's a very big project. So we really believe that we did a very sound data mining. We did it now for 3 years in the institute. We spent a hell lot of time. We have so much literature, you can't pack it on one computer. And we are quite convinced that we are close to the data, or to the variables, to the numbers that we are assuming. We just now have to confirm it by getting the test plot. If we get the test plot and we are right, then I strongly believe that this thing will fly. And I hope it will fly. So most important KPIs is the growth rate. it is the CO2 price, it is the irrigation demand, so how much water you need per hectare and how much biomass you can produce with this, so they strongly correlate. And then for sure the CAPEX, so we have to discuss with all you guys because we want to have you as our partners, yeah? So we have to go into CAPEX discussion, yeah? In order to get the best price to make this thing fly. So it's in your hands. Yeah? Okay, so that's from my side. Any questions? I'm here. And yeah, thank you very much.